Hey everybody, welcome to episode 101 of the Bonehead Podcast, where we talk all things Blood Bowl. And jingle. Welcome back. I'm Ben, and I'm not actually joined by Bloodtithe Ben today. He's a bit under the weather, so he has been very, very appropriately and capably substituted by our 3D printing correspondent, Triple Pow, and our foreign correspondent, Miltonio Banderas. Guys, how you doing today?
Doing great, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. I love how we've kind of managed to find correspondent tags for both of you. Even though you're now just like TO Supremes, which is TO Supremes and Discord Legends, I think is probably the best way to go. No, but BT's a bit under the weather. He even came to club on Tuesday night wearing a mask, feeling sorry for himself. Bless his cottons. But no, so thank you both for jumping on. Trips, how you doing today? All right?
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm good. All good.
We call you the 3D printing correspondent, and I feel like in hobby you're going to justify that by showing maybe a little bit of what you've been working on.
I have a little bit of printed grey plastic as opposed to off the sprue grey plastic.
That's what we were saying, is that we are all surrounded by grey plastic in one way or another, as is Milton. How are you doing today, Milton?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah, still surrounded in grey plastic.
Yeah, well, this is it. The art is gluing it to a base and then spraying it brown. So you're kind of surrounded by brown resin instead of, grey plastic. It's one marginal level up, maybe?
Yeah, it's definitely a step in the right direction, isn't it?
Yeah, it's the biggest step in my lazy boy painting scheme. Anyway, on episode 101, we are going to be doing a little bit of a Sevens special. We have been cramming out Sevens content throughout 7 September. We did a very cool test stream, which Trips jumped on, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, because we've got South Coast October coming up in just 4 weeks as this podcast goes live, and we're going to be streaming the event, so we did a test for that. But we've been playing a load of Sevens because we've also been filming Sevens Super Series. We stole Milton from the Isle of Wight for a whole day to do some filming for that as well. So basically, we've been cramming in Sevens, and while we're still waiting for that team to be maybe released from Games Workshop, it seemed appropriate that we snuck it in now before everything got a little bit dodgy. Anyway, we'll be right back with Blood Bowl news. Recording. Okay, so Blood Bowl news. Before we go any further, I just want to say a massive thank you to everybody out there who supports the podcast in one way or another, whether you like, subscribe, talk to us, come join us in the Discord and share some great ideas, participate in Whip Wednesday, come to our tournament. So we're going to talk through some of our tournaments coming up soon in just a second, or whether you're one of the awesome people that subscribes to us on Patreon or YouTube members. A bunch of new people joining the crew this week, so thank you very much. Lucky, Jedi, Samurai Jack, the Face Ripper, which is a pretty elite name, Steve P, a unicycling bear, Villa Lucca, Evan Mookie, Brian Nutter, Mason Kinsley, Brute Fun himself, Hanoji, and Chris Woodward. Thank you all very much for becoming Boneheads and supporting the show. It means that we can keep on doing what we do and hopefully get a little bit better at it as we go along. So, now, Blood Bowl news. Guys, there's not a huge amount kicking around at the moment, is there?
Not at the moment.
Definitely been quiet.
It's a little bit suspicious. It's almost as if Games Workshop is loitering on the edge of doing a potentially big Blood Bowl release.
There's a lot of rumours floating about, isn't there?
Yeah, I'm a little bit bored of waiting for the Amazons at this point. When's this pod coming out? This pod's coming out, Saturday the 24th?
Yeah.
Will we see the preview on Sunday the 25th?
No.
That's a no for Milton. Trips?
I think there's a possibility because they seem to have put out everything else they've talked about and it's just been regular articles for a while.
Yeah, I thought this last week. I thought we were all caught up. Like Votans have dropped. I was like, I think we're up to date with everything now. And then they were like, oh no, we've got these books and these models from 2004.
I don't know. We've seen a lot of these. My cousins, uncles, brothers, sisters, nephew who works at Games Workshop once told me, don't tell anyone else, kind of rumor mill things about this Amazon release. And one of the ones I've seen that I really like is the thought that they're going to go in another box. Now, we had the Season 2 box drop. We had Dungeon Bowl drop last year.
We did, yeah.
In the build up to Christmas. Is it possible that the Amazons are going to drop in a box for the build up to Christmas for another game format?
Well, like another. That's interesting. Okay, what games? What formats have we got left? They've done sevens. They've done Dungeon Bowl. What are you thinking?
They've done sevens, but they've not done a sevens box, have they? So you've got the rules in the Death Zone, and you've got the pitch separate. Got Death Ball.
Death Bowl would be really interesting, but then surely they'd have to include 4 teams. There's Street Bowl, but I can't see them ever doing Street Bowl because you can just use an 11s pitch. Beach Bowl, no, not really. Or
just another box. I mean, we get lots of boxes, don't we, for different game systems where they just have an expansion box. It could just be.
Yeah, Trips keeps buying them.
Yes. Well, I think it was my prediction for the year that we'd get a new Blood Bowl starter box. I'd have thought it would be High Elves and Dwarfs. Heaven forbid that we should get more than one team teased every 6 months. Games Workshop do like their starter boxes. Pretty much every game's got rotating starter boxes or boxes for the various seasons. You look at Underworlds has got them, Warcry's got them, Kill Team's got them, even Necromunda's had them.
Lord of the Rings has had a couple now as well, isn't it?
Lord of the Rings have them. We're getting near happy season for 40k starter boxes as well. But
I
just think there's some kind of delay and it's got stuck. Something's gone wrong.
Yeah, I
either
think
that or they
right.
really are just waiting for you to go on holiday, Ben.
Yeah, it's definitely that.
Oh, mate, it's honestly, we fly out on the Friday lunchtime, and I think we fly back Friday lunchtime. So if it's not announced this Sunday, but it's announced the following Sunday, then it is the perfect time to land as I land, which is going to be a couple of days quicker than we normally do it, because we normally get, the box set a little bit early so we can do an unboxing and upset some people, and that's quite cool. I'm going to take the laptop and the filming equipment on holiday just in case we get roster leaks and things like that, just in case. But given that we haven't had Blood Bowl news since I was last abroad, it's kind of like, come on. Let's do, this year, Blood Bowl news. We've had the Norse team was revealed in the middle of the night. We had the Amazon team revealed while I was in Italy. It would be appropriate that Amazons were released when I'm in Gran Canaria or Tenerife.
So I do think the important lesson there, Ben, is on behalf of the Blood Bowl community, you should go on holiday more often.
Yeah, that's Tiff's angle as well. Definitely our angle. No, brilliant. Okie dokie. Now, on that note, we were talking about tournaments. We do have South Coast Autumn coming up in the 22nd and 23rd of October. So with South Coast coming up in just 4 weeks from today, as this podcast goes out, how long have we got left for rosters, for the roster deadline, Milton?
That's an excellent question. I'm fully unprepared for that one.
It is 2 weeks. So
tomorrow, please. Everybody get it in now.
Yeah, we've sold, I think, about 100 tickets between the 2 days as it stands right now. So if you're planning on coming, it's Saturday 11s, Sunday 7s at the Aegeus Bowl in Southampton. Tickets are still available. I think we've only got maybe 15 slots left for Saturday 11s. Plenty of slots left on Sunday. I think we've got 40-something coaches for our 7s tournament, which is wicked. And yes, rosters. Because we've got so many players, we want our rosters in 2 weeks before the tournament event. So there's kind of two things on that. First of all, it gives us a chance to just make sure that everything is plain and open and fair. You know, we do make mistakes sometimes, but the more time we get with rosters, the more chance we're going to catch mistakes and just be able to communicate and say, actually, you've missed a skill, you've added too many skills, you're running 3 giants, but don't tell anybody, that kind of stuff. So if you have got your ticket, then drop us in your roster within as soon as you can would be lovely. But it kind of ties in with the Amazons bit, and this is why we're dropping this seg as a separate bit in the podcast feed and a separate video, is because if the roster is not out, if Amazons are not released by roster cutoff point, we can't have them at the tournament, because it won't have enough time for us to go through the rosters and check it out. Basically, we've got that 2 weeks so that we can sort out any last minute issues, or last minute like, hey, can I come, or hey, I've been abroad, I've forgotten about the rosters. Basically, we're keeping that 2 weeks before the tournament to get all the player packs sorted, all the organization sorted, without us having to literally stop our regular lives. Like, Milton has done an outrageous amount of work already, and me and Trips will be there to support and get everything lined up. But we do this of our evenings and lunch breaks. So that 2 weeks to process 100 plus rosters, we want them as early as possible. Now, to make that a little bit more of a fun segment, what we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a prediction. Now, Milton, I know you've seen some rosters, not a huge amount. How many rosters have we got in so far, including both
16 11s and 16 11s and 6 maybe now.
Fantastic.
7.
Okay, so we're about 20% of the way there when it comes to rosters. Now, I know what everyone's like. I'm the same. It's Blood Bowl tournament. We go, oh, it's a month coming up, or I better actually buy my ticket and then get my roster in. So it's going to be a frantic 2 to 3 weeks now, which is like a super exciting bit. Now, what we're not going to do is reveal the rosters that have already been submitted. And with the bearing in mind that actually we've already got 20% in and Milton has seen them, I think 20% is still pretty fair. What we're going to do is we're going to have a bit of a prediction of basically the most popular roster on each of the days and the winning roster on each of the days. So we'll start with Saturday 11s, and I'm going to go first, I think, on this one. We saw a ton of greenskins, right, in the last event. Was that right, guys?
Yes. So there was, I think there was 7 or 8 Goblin teams. There were 6 or 7 Black Orc teams, and then 5 Orc teams. There was a lot of greenskins.
I would have
quite a few Snotling teams as well.
Yeah, represent. I would have probably been propping Amazons, but unless they drop on the 25th, that ain't going to happen. So,
well, even if they do, are people going to have time to buy, build, paint, get it ready for the tournament?
I think the number would it definitely increased because of the shiny new toy syndrome. Maybe. But I think the most popular team we're going to see this time around is going to be Norse. That's my bet. I think you've got kind of a release hangover with them. People have kind of figured them out now, and as Trips has absolutely proven, you can sneak some nice builds in there, maybe even with Griff. So I reckon Norse are going to be the most, probably one of the most popular rosters for the 11s, and the winning roster on the day is going to be a flashback surprise roster of Underworld with Hackflem. That's my prediction. Trips, what do you reckon for the Saturday 11s?
So I'm going to base mine on the rule set. So I think the mascot in the rule set means that you'll find teams taking effectively a higher TV and squeezing more in. And I think having that extra reroll really helps teams that really need that reroll. So I think frenzy teams are going to be very popular. I'm not going to go Norse because we've already had that one. So I think we'll also see another reasonably new team. I think we will see lots of Khorne on the day. I think we will see a real smattering of Khorne with Big Guy or Khorne with Star. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what people have done with the teams. But I don't think a Khorne team will win it. I think on the day we will see a Renegades team win it, because I think a Renegades team skilled up with a few rerolls and played well could really smash. And we've seen Renegades teams do really well, but they are a bit reliant on not having bad dice rolls for the first 4 turns of the first half.
And you're right, having that extra reroll on the roster is going to help. We saw Wayne take Beachhead 1 with Renegades when we had the Fen Beast, which, who knows, may or may not come back to a tournament near you soon. Milton, 11's predictions, dude. What do you got?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one, really. I think your Norse prediction's pretty good. And the corn idea is actually not too bad either. Do you know what, though? I actually think we're going to see, for the most, I think we're going to see Black Orcs again. A couple of reasons. I think, A, they're a pretty solid T2 team. B, they're in the starter set box, so most people kind of have them or have access to them, have kind of like worked with the team a little bit. We've seen a lot of love for them in the painting channels and stuff, and so they're a very popular team. I know we had a lot come to South Coast summer. I'm still expecting a lot of them to come to Autumn as well. As for the winning team, well, Wayne's still not messaged me back. So
he said he's brewing up something special. So I think he's doing something stupid this time around.
I'm going to do a little shout out here. I'm going to say that Mr. Boric G, he got his roster in before I think the tickets went even out, to be honest. I mean, I'm going to give that man props. So
that's Graham. That's our resident dwarf. He is a legend of a dude.
So I'm going to root for him.
Fair enough. Okie dokie. On to the 7s then. Trips, you saying Khorne. I think Khorne in 7's underrated. I don't think that's who will win. I think it's going to be elf nonsense. I think high elves. I think someone's going to bring a high elf roster to 7's and know how to use high elves. And I think they're gonna win the format there. But the most popular one, it's 7's. You want a good mid-range team. Orcs maybe. Skaven. Skaven will be the most popular in 7's because Skaven are just amazing. Trips, 7's predictions. What do you reckon?
It's 7's. So I think most popular team for 7's, similar to the Black Orc theory with Milton, will be Nobility, and I think Nobility are a real pain in 7's because they come pre-built in with a load of annoyance skills, and the thrower genuinely can throw in 7's.
So we've seen,
may not be the best thrower in the game, but may have the ability to throw. So I think we'll see a lot of Nobility teams, and I think you can get a nice skill package on the 7's. But I think as a winning team, and this is more just because I'd love to see it, I think we'll see a Norse 7's winning with a Star Valkyrie taking the day.
Oh, I love it. That would be very, very, very cool. We kind of started to sponsor these teams, haven't we? Milton, what's your call, man?
Oh, man. I think we're going to see a lot of Norse for 7's. I think for exactly the same reasons you said about the 11's. I think Norse in 7's, okay, so they've got a couple of things, right? So Norse in 7's, you've got reasonably decent movement. Now, there's one sort of downside, which is the drunkard rule. The drunkard rule. Now, you don't have re-rolls, or you have limited access to re-rolls in 7's. So I always feel that you're slightly less inclined to push for those rushes because you got nothing to fall back on. You know, you're playing to the odds.
I see. So you're thinking that rule's not actually going to come into effect that often because people aren't going to be pushing their luck anyway.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do have a re-roll, you're probably not saving it for that. You're probably saving it for the double skulls. Or the triple skulls, if you're snotlings. And so, I think we're going to see a lot of Norse. That the block is just brutal across the board. And
they've got strength 4 pieces. They can take a Yeti. They can get those Valks with pass and catch in there. Actually, Norse are a pretty strong bet.
I think they are, but I feel like a Skaven's going to take it.
come on, represent dodgy filth. That's the aim of the game. They'll die in droves, but they'll come out victorious. No, fantastic. All right, cool. Well, we've got our predictions in. This is just a reminder to say rosters within the next 2 weeks, please. Tournament within the next 4 weeks. In 4 weeks' time, as this podcast goes live, we will also be going live with live stream coverage, but more about that in a minute. We've got the Saturday 11s and the Sunday 7s at South Coast in Southampton in October, and then we've got our next tournament. Now, we're going to talk about this tournament a lot, even though we are almost sold out, and that is Bonehead Bowl. And when I say almost sold out, we've got 6 tickets left out of 50. So if you are planning on coming, this is on Saturday the 26th of November, and it is mixed teams and Dungeon Bowl and ordinary teams, 3 games of 11s. It is going to be absolute madness. There's you can have star players, you can have a giant, you can have basically all the stuff. It's just gonna, I guarantee you are going to play a couple, if not all 3 games, and they're going to be very different to games you've ever played before. We're going back to our roots with Bonehead Bowl, and I cannot wait. And we've got all the coaches signed up, and I'm just super excited about this. And we should be streaming from there as well, which will be really good. That will be blooming hard work, with 2 mixed teams facing off against each other. That's gonna be. I'm gonna be unbearably excited on coverage for that one.
Oh, but Bonehead is without a doubt the definition of all the sweets in the sweet shop tournament. It's, have you ever wanted to? You can at Bonehead. You can take a million different combinations. I fear for Milton's sanity while checking the rosters. I think we've got a good roster builder for that one.
Yeah, I'll get that up and out when the Aegis rosters close. I think gives me time to build it properly.
I think the biggest problem, and we've seen some people in the Discord already struggling with this, is it's very easy to brew 30 rosters for Bonehead and then to decide that there's still more that you want to take. So good luck to all the coaches picking a roster. And remember, you do need to lock it down at least one Friday painting time ahead of the roster deadline. But it's so much fun, and you will absolutely play at least 2 teams that you will probably never play again.
It's just outrageous. And that's actually happening at Entoyment in Poole, which is just a phenomenally good venue. Like, there's plenty of space, it's well organised, the shop is outrageous. They will bring you tea and pizza if you use the QR code on the table and order it. It's just absolutely awesome. Like, you scan the table as your opponent's taking their turn and you order it, and the next thing you know, Carl's shuffling over with a cup of tea for you, and it's just bliss. I love that place. I miss that place. I'm so gutted that you live next door, Trips.
And it is terribly easy to pop in to courier items to people at club.
I'm just so jazzed that, like, we're nearly sold out and we're over 2 months away. That's how much fun it's going to be, I think, which is really cool. Now, for more tournament action, do come and join our Discord. We've got a tournament sub-thread where people are advertising what events are going on. We kind of talked about sharing them on the podcast, but actually it's much easier for you to jump in the Discord. So if you want to know what Blood Bowl is going on, then you can join our Discord and check out the tournament bit. And Milton, you added a special bit today, didn't you, called Whereabouts or something outrageously British?
Yes, I think. I couldn't quite work over words. So someone suggested, there was a lot of conversation about, where you are and people meeting up, and someone said, why don't we have a channel for this? So got one called Whereabouts now, where you can go and chuck in where you're from if you want to. Don't have to. It's not a requirement.
No.
And we've had so much response from that already. People going, oh yeah, I live really close. We should have a game and that kind of stuff. So if you do want to come and check it out and find if you're part of the international Bonehead audience, then you
don't
can
say massive. I thought that was
come and jump in, and you might find some coaches local in your area, or if you're new to the game and you're not quite sure, you might find that there's some local leagues or things in your area, and there's some guys on the Discord. There's a lot of guys on the Discord that run leagues, running tournaments and stuff, which is really cool.
That is
nice
brilliant. like, come and say hello in the Discord. The guys are doing a great job running it at the moment. So that's brilliant. So yes, tournaments. Last thing we're going to touch on news. I know we've already kind of talked about Amazons, but we didn't have trips last week. So I figured I'd ask you what your thoughts are on Glottal Stop, the newest star player for Lustrian Super League.
So I think it's a lovely miniature, and I think it painted really nicely. I think the paint job for the miniature when you first see it can have a big influence. Even gets me over the whole running pose, which means less points of contact to the base, which is not going to be too much of an issue with a big guy. I think the mini looks great. We really want to know more about the rules.
Yes, the first time they've dropped something like this without the actual special rule in there to
not
jazz
really
it up.
any sort of trait hints. We've got a little bit about the traits. It's great to see a Star Croxagore coming in. Just want to see more now.
Yeah, looking at the article, it says they also appear in the upcoming Blood Bowl Spike Journal 15. Now, normally these articles, they say you can pre-order this really soon, don't they? But they didn't, which is worrying.
Well, it's going to be a Forge World mini, so we all remember the Tree Man. Has that one been released yet?
Yeah, on any given Friday.
Yeah, the Croxagore could be your Christmas gift for 2023 if you're lucky.
Yeah, get it to go with your starter box set, which is pretty cool. Right, there's nothing going on Kickstarter that we haven't already touched on, and I think that just about wraps it up for Blood Bowl news. So over to games and hobby. Okay, so games and hobby. What have you guys been up to? I know you've got some shiny bits to show off, Trips.
Yeah, so I'll start with a hobby. So I finished painting my OWA guys for the stream last weekend, and was pleasantly surprised when I found them that I had almost finished painting them, and I'd just forgotten about them so much because I'd put them away after my long-standing annoyance with Brawler, as a rule. So that was quite nice to finish them off, and just about finished my High Elves for the Entoyment League. I've got my first game this Wednesday coming up, so
that's exciting.
Seeing if I've got any High Elves left at the end of that one. And then I've been on a bit of a printing binge for the last 10 days, and massively spamming our group with all sorts of comments. I have gone down the Kill Team Necromunda
it looks so good
line really quickly. So these are tiles for a board that I'm going to build. I think you came up with a really good name today, Ben, so I am going to steal that. And you've got to have a nice set of walls as well.
The Space Hulk looking bits you brought to club were just absolutely so cool.
Oh, these ones.
Yeah. It's Mega Tripolis, did I?
Yeah.
No, that's so good. Like, the 3D printed stuff you've done is amazing. I love the layout of it. Now, talking of the layout of it, when I 3D printed the dungeon, that took a long time to plan to make sure that it was going to fit all right, because you got different sizes of stuff. How modular are you going to make this version?
So I think I'm going to go for tiles that I've got pre-built sets on, but then make them that they can be linked up to each other in different ways. So it's pretty modular,
like a foot square, or
yeah, probably like a foot square. So it's you've got several different layouts you can do, and I can always make more tiles then. But what I don't want to do is get to the point where you go, I just want to set up for a quick game. You're like, it's just going to be 2 hours to
build it,
all the bits together and find the stairs. And
yeah, no. That's the thing that as much as I absolutely loved MG Pix's last Kickstarter, I was like, I am not doing any of this clipping together stuff. I was like, nope, this is just being glued on a 3x2 and it's staying there forever in my shed where it still lies. Now, on 3D printing, Milton, I know you started binge printing a project. How are you getting on with the printing?
Yeah, no. So the Mud and Blood pitch Kickstarter, which we have the full files for now. I have unfortunately stopped on that for a bit. I got a little cheesed off with my printer.
That does happen.
Fell into that trap. But I desperately need to get back on that. I just haven't had the time at the moment. I've been doing a few other bits and pieces though.
Ooh, what have we got?
Not Blood Bowl. I did my Dead of Dun Harrow for Middle-earth. So that's a project that I've kind of had on the back burner for like 2 years. And I was just like, right, before I'm allowed to buy anything else, I have to finish something else up. So yeah, I cleared those up and then went out straight away and bought the king and the banners to finish that off. I've built and primed those, so they're one step closer to being done. And then I was like, I've had enough of that, so I got out some of my Punga
the slam
star players. No, the
star players.
Yeah, so because you've got, and I can talk about this now because you've done the intro videos for Super 7 series.
Yes, of course, so,
yeah. The Caribou Carrion are my team.
Yeah.
Ben currently has them.
They're my team now.
I was running them in our local league. And so I don't have that team anymore to play with. What I've done is I've made the B team out of what I have like remaining. So I had enough skeletons and zombies and ghouls to make up the rest of the team, but I didn't have any more whites, and so I grabbed my Punga Skrull, and he's my white, and I was like, oh, these Punga miniatures are just amazing, aren't they? Like the quality of them is so good, and like the sculpts are really nice. And I was like, I've got Frankenstein, Gretchen, and Skrull, and I was like, right, I'm going to stick these on the spray stick and get these primed, and I'm going to start painting Skrull up because it'd be nice to kind of have him looking smart with the rest of the team.
Your scheme was beautiful on the undead. They came out so nicely, and I hopefully it comes across in the videos, especially the spinny videos for 7 Super Series.
I'm happy with them. Cheers for that. They've come out nice. I really like that scheme, that particular, like that red and black. I find that really.
Yeah,
I find it quite easy to
really crisp.
Paint. Yeah,
really crisp. So I look forward to seeing the stars. Are you doing the same kit, or are you going with a star player kit?
So that was the conversation we had, wasn't it? I wasn't quite sure whether to tie them in with the team or whether to like make a separate star player kit. Now, I don't think I'm having well, I say never, eh? But I don't think I have any plans to buy a Necro team. I'm not really sure there's enough difference. I know the Wolves, etc. They kind of make a bit of extra speed in the team, but
they'd make a good mixed team for Bonehead Bowl.
They do, but I don't think I'll ever go. And even if I do, I'll probably do something different, and I doubt I'd be using those stars. So I think for these particular ones, they're going to stay in the same kit.
I think that's a good shout.
In addition to that, I know what I'm doing with the paint job, so I'm not having to make something else up, getting frustrated and abandoning it. I can go into it and I can just go, right, I'm going to get this done. I know what I'm doing. Boom, there it is, and it fits with the rest of it. I feel like if I go down a different route, I'm just going to get slightly annoyed and abandon the project. So I think the safe bet there is to go with that. But yeah, in terms of like miniatures and stuff, I think, and that's like, I'd say that 90% of my hobby has been tournament prep.
And the busiest weeks, hugely, but the busiest weeks are still to come.
I'm picking up a LaserJet printer on Saturday, so
invested.
That's a fair indication of where my time gets spent. But yeah, no. So I mean, in terms of tournament prep, I mean, yeah. So doing pretty well. All the score slips are done for both 11s and 7s. All the best team slips are done. Almost done with the design of the cover sheets, and obviously all the rosters that are coming in and stuff, getting all that prepped up. So
Milton,
it's going to be amazing.
Such a great bit of work.
Oh, and the one other thing was I did post in the Discord earlier. I know we've talked about it before on the podcast. So Bojack Norseman, my Chaos Chosen team mascot.
Oh yeah.
Who may have been the inspiration for the mascot rules in the upcoming tournament.
Yeah.
And I'm just really curious to see what other people bring. Like, I think that's going to be one of my favorite things. And like, I'm no need to share. You know, if it kind of discloses your team, your roster, whatever, and you want to keep that all for the day, that's absolutely fine. But I'm just really looking forward to seeing what people bring and what they do for their mascots. I'm expecting some. I know there are some people that go like really off the wall with their hobby projects, and they're amazing. And I just can't wait to see what they do.
Yeah, and that's just that's a TO choice as well. So us as a group, we're gonna have to go explore, look at all the mascots, then come to a consensus to give the best mascot prize on both those days, because that's just so much fun. Best team award is going to stay the best team award. Everyone's going to vote. We're going to have a lunchtime display like we always do. And Milton's done a great job getting the slips ready. But the best mascot, that one's on us. So I'm excited to wield some choice.
You've got to impress. You've got to impress. It's going to be incredible.
That's good. 4 weeks, guys. 4 weeks. I'm super impressed. So yeah, Milton, you've been prepping that. I have been prepping 7 Super Series for the most part. So thanks to Milton for coming over and filming, and Trips for allowing me to book you in a couple of weeks' time for a couple more games. Built the stands. Did some great stuff with videos. I've been having a really good creative period.
We have to talk about those stands. Those stands are fantastic.
It's so cool, right?
I'm sure you guys have seen, if you've watched the Super 7 series, like intro videos, the background's now got like some stands on Ben's spinny plate. He's made up the pitch with the spinning plate in order to demo the teams. These amazing stands, and yeah, it's so cool. He's done such an excellent job on it.
Well, I robbed 2 of those stands from Trips, and then printed some more, and then printed the Quidditch stands, as I think Milton and Ian Warhammer call them, because they're from Quidditch, and just to give like a bit of a backdrop. But over time, we are very much hoping to fill those stands with models from our patrons or Discord members and stuff like that. I've did a little prototype of some nameplates that like basically on boards. So for some of our Patreon members and stuff like that, we can print their username and print it out and paint it as a board and put it on the front paneling, so that when we do the shots at the stadium, whether it's in the Bonehead Championship or when we film games, you'll have like your name on a board there. You'll have a model that's you've painted and sent to us, or we've painted on your behalf in the stadium, and we're just going to try and just build something that's going to be so big that it really upsets my wife, I think is probably where that's going. And then we'll have to get a studio. That's kind of Trips. I think a cunning strategy.
I think it's the way to go, is to just build something that requires then its own arena of space.
Yeah, and we're going to just keep adding to them. And yeah, we kind of snuck them in at one point in our 7 stream of the weekend as well, because of one of our new cameras was able to just zoom in across the room and pick it up. And that was cool. Now, we're going to talk about the 7 stream. We'll talk about that in the 7s bit, I think. But that also was a big chunk of hobby. But we do like to talk about games played here. And I did get another league game in against Orc John, who played an absolutely solid game. I think he said it was his like 12th Blood Bowl match. A pretty nice Orc team, some guard in there, some block in there, some blooming kick in there, and tackle when you're running Black Orcs is a bit of a nuisance as well. But he just destroyed me in the first half. Bomber helped with that. Bomber just wand himself, took himself out, and knocked a couple of Black Orcs down around him. It was a disaster, and some awesome positioning by John with the Orcs. Just going up against an Orc team is really tough for Black Orcs. Like, you do technically have the strength, but your goblins are left so vulnerable because 4 of their guys are going toe to toe with 4 of yours, which means you've got 2 strength 4 pieces who are slower than anything on the opponent's team, and then it's just kind of goblins. So really tough match, really like grindy first half, and then I managed to swing a defensive touchdown in the second half. I got kind of lucky. The ball was central kick, and I think John failed to pick it up or double scold or something like that, which left me then a bunch of grab blocks in the center of the line to punch a hole, and then Grot Brady ran through with a couple of his friends, and we just kind of fudged our way into a turn 8 goblin touchdown for the 1-0 win, which was a great game. And I have now come, and for a brief moment I was number 1 in the league, because obviously trying to get to that top 4 so that I can face Blood Tithe Ben in the finals, and then Byron took the lead back. But I'm really chuffed to have come in a league of 25 teams, to be like, oh no, I need to get my stuff in order with Black Orcs, and then get back up into the top 4. So I'm absolutely over the moon with that, and it wouldn't have happened without Trips being a proper berserker in the league, arriving late to take on giants. And I can't remember if you defeated or drew with the Dark Elves last week.
Defeated the Dark Elves last week, who were in the playoffs before the game and are no longer. And then I had top of the league this week. So
took on Byron with a pretty filthy Underworld team. Trips, how was your game with Byron?
It was tough. They are a really skilled up Underworld team. I think you went through the team last week.
Yeah.
They've got skills galore everywhere, and every player's got pretty much the skill you want to give them, and then probably another skill on top of that. They are nasty to play against. But there is an advantage of them being nasty to play against, and an advantage of playing Norse in the league, that I've consistently been 2 positionals down every week. And so this was game 3 of 3 needing to take inducements. And as the rule is, if you can take Griff, you take Griff. So for the 3rd week in a row, I got to play with Griff, who really does... really fills that gap nicely. I also took the Dwarven Runesmith.
Oh, how did you find that?
Which was really good. And it stayed in the game till I think about turn 14, and I used it to give Mighty Blow to one of my players, because I was very much in a needing to clear the team. It was a really tough first half. I received the ball and was not getting anywhere very quickly, mainly because Byron took Bomber. He's at the point now where he's getting enough money every game that he can take Bomber for free, effectively. And Bomber was doing a really good job. I think the highlight had to be when Bomber threw a bomb that was inaccurate, but then caught by a Skaven who threw it to himself, who then threw it and took out 3 players on the bomb landing. And it was like, oh, this is not good. So went into halftime 0-0. Big thing that happened at halftime is neither of his guard pieces came back. And his guard troll basically spent most of the game out. So I was able to really get the numbers advantage in the second half. He had a do gutter things and run away and score, but was able to put enough pressure on to give me, I think, 3 turns left to try and score. And you've got 3 turns left and you want to try and score. You've got Frenzy and then you've got Griff following through. So Griff snuck through at the end to get me a 1-1 tie. He had an outside chance of a 1-turner, but needed a lot of chain pushes and then a lot of rolls to go his way. And a Goblin couldn't do the blocking.
Yeah, so that's beautiful, beautiful tie. I was watching at home. I was watching the score. This is a beautiful thing about tour play. So number 1, we got Byron with Underworld. Number 2, we've got me with the Black Mountain Buccaneers. I've worn the black my Bucks shirt my Black Mountain Buccaneers t-shirt for the last couple of games, and I've had a couple of wins in a run, so I've now found myself in like I've got a superstition on the go. Then we've got Elven Union at 3, and then Blood Tithe with the Skaven at 4. Now there's, I think, a couple of teams that can oust, so that's the top 4. Top 5th team is finished at 12 points. That's Greenskin Phil. He did wreck my team the other week. Then we've got Undead Jack, who I played and drew. Jack has got 1 game left. I've got all the top 3 teams, 1 game left to play next week to get more points. Ben's got 3 games spare because he's a mad lad and they're still in the top 4. And yeah, Jack has also got 1 game in hand, and could, with honestly a draw or a win, barrel into the top 4 as well. And then you, Trips, even though you've only played 4 games, you are only a couple of wins away from 13 points.
Yeah.
And bouncing into the top 4. So if there's a way for you to get a couple of games in a week, then you could sneak into the playoffs.
Possibly, although I think the chances are that Ben and I might be playing a game to catch both up, and yeah, it's unlikely that either of us will come out of that with a full squad, and we're both definitely not coming out of it with 3 points.
Oh, if you knock each other out of the playoffs, I'm going to be very disappointed. No, that's wicked. I love a bit of League. And Milton, I think have you played any more League games since we last recorded?
Nah, not since we last recorded, sadly.
You still got a couple to come, though, haven't you?
I do, yeah. I've got 2 more games to finish up our Sevens League. I was top of the table. There's been a few more games played. I'm now 2nd, so not bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad. Yeah, looking forward to my next games, though.
If I don't make it to the top 4, I will do my best to stream the games from club. Either on YouTube or just to our local club, because actually it's pretty cool. And I did pick up a second of the fancy cameras, so we're going to have a fancy overhead camera as well as a fancy side camera, which should abolish some of the color bits that we had some issues with. So yeah, very exciting times for Blood Bowl. Right, I think we've done hobby, guys. Anything particularly exciting that we've missed out?
Not that I can think of.
Nope.
Fantastic. Let's talk Sevens. Okay, so Sevens has been one of the most iconic and enjoyable things when it comes to Blood Bowl that's linked to the podcast, I think, for almost as long as the podcast has been going. We loved Sevens when we first played it. We then ran a tournament, which was Sewer Bowl Sevens. We then did 1, 2, 3, now 4 series of 7 Super Series, and we've run a bunch of Sevens events. Sevens is unashamedly my favourite way to play Blood Bowl. I love 11s in League, I love tournament play, I love Dungeon Bowl, but there is something about Sevens that just gives me that, just the nonsense with an appropriate time level. It makes me want to make more teams. It makes me want to try different rosters. It's just the most addictive way to play Blood Bowl. So what we thought we'd do is that actually now we've binged a bunch of games. Now we've experienced the full glory that is Sevens in Blood Bowl 2020 from a tournament build point of view, from a league point of view, and from a escalation point of view with 7 Super Series, that we just go full what is Sevens. And we're going to talk through a couple of the differences between Sevens and regular Blood Bowl, and then we're going to talk about why it is so good. So first thing to mention is that it is a 7-player variant, in that there are 7 players that you play Blood Bowl with. I've lost my screen. Where's my screen gone? Here's my screen. There we go. So you get 7 players on a pitch instead of 11. You get a max team cap of 11 players. And on that Sevens pitch, the pitch is very, very different. So instead of being 15 squares wide, it is 11 squares wide. And instead of being 26 squares long, it is 20 squares long. Okay. But the line of scrimmage is separated in Sevens. And this is probably the biggest element and probably the reason I love it quite so much. There's no line of slaughter There's no line up and die element. There's no immediate crackback. This is, you start with a no man's land of 6 squares between you and your opponent. You can have 1 player in one of the 2 square wide zones. 3 have to be on your line of scrimmage, but there is 6 dead squares in the middle of no man's land. That just means that that first turn isn't going to be a line up and die. It is going, you are opening the game with a choice of, do I blitz now with a long play and then wait to get punched back, or do I cage up? And it just creates so many choices to play. But that is probably the key difference when it comes to the pitch. Because the way the lines are staggered, you still have 13 squares from your starting point to the end zone. So 1-turn touchdowns and things like that are still a massive stretch play. Although there is one slight tweak when it comes to the rules, in that you can kick to the no man's land. So you can kick into that middle zone if it goes out of bounds. If it goes onto your half, it is still a touchback, but you can kick it in front of your opponent's line and hope that it lands in that no man's land right in front of your team. It's not something we see quite so much because there was a bit of a rules change. I guess we should mention now, in standard Blood Bowl, you roll a d6 and a d8, and that's where the ball goes. It used to be different in 7s. It is now exactly the same. So that onside kick is a lot riskier, but it really does make the kick skill even more important. So it's a smaller pitch. You've got less players. There's a cool neutral zone. There are less turns in a half. There's only 6 turns each. I feel like it should have been 7 to kind of go with the theme, but actually, you know what, that makes a lot of sense. And the kickoff table is rightly kind of adjusted. So you've got your pitch, and then the kickoff table. Click, click, click. Yeah, we've got the death zone bit here, and it's not quite in the same order that you'd expect it to be. Where's my kickoff table? The kickoff event. It is ever so slightly different, but only in that, I think literally the only change is that instead of D3 plus 3 when stuff happens, it's D3 plus 1, just to match up the thing. So actually, in the old version of 7s, I think had a slightly different kickoff table, didn't it? Yeah. This one is the same, but instead of adding 3 to a dice when a random event happens, you add plus 1. Now, there is a slightly different prayers to Nuffle, I think, but again, it all kind of just lines up. And because it's all there in the Death Zone book, you've got it all ready to go. I don't know how I feel about prayers to Nuffle, but it's not far off standard Blood Bowl. So I guess immediately out of the gate, the pitch is smaller. You can buy it from Games Workshop now, which is a massive boon, because for years you had to make your own, get it printed, or buy one of ours when we had our first print run. Our second print run of our Blood Bowl, of our Bonehead Podcast, Blood Bowl 7's mats, should be coming back in stock soon, which is pretty cool. Or you can just go get the Games Workshop one. So the pitches being different was probably a barrier. That is a barrier that is now gone. So yeah, that covers the pitch and the rule differences. Trips is going to run us through the changes or the differences when it comes to building a roster.
Thanks, Ben. So the biggest first difference is you're not starting with your traditional 1 million. I think it's bronze. Is it how it's now described in the Death Zone? But basically, it's 600k is what you're starting with, and you're building your roster with that. The then second big difference that you get is you can only have 0 to 4 non-lineman team in your team. And that is a massive change. When you look at nearly every roster, there's always a 5th positional you want. In some rosters, there's a 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. But you can literally only have 0 to 4 positional players, and then the rest are in your lineman category. So that you'll be working out which positionals to squeeze in, which linemen to add in and detail. But for some teams, and particularly teams where you've got very pricey positional players that you can't get in, you will find yourself not being able to spend that 600, and players 9 and 10 are never going to see the pitch. on a sevens pitch. So there is an inducement change, and the biggest inducement change is you can go for desperate measures for 50k each. And a desperate measure is a random inducement. But I think you could definitely build a team around the fact that you are looking for some desperate measures, and there are some really good ones in there.
I love the wizard. You can get a wizard. It's the best. It's the best. Well, actually, they're all really good.
So my favourite one is the first one, You Dope. The ability to give one of your players a strength up or an agility up for the duration of the game. As long as you roll 3+ at the end of every drive, you can turn one of your linemen into a positional, or you can turn one of your positionals into a almost star player.
Into grip, which is what we saw on the live stream. Yeah, the desperate measures are kind of a halfway they kind of feel like a more accessible special plays deck. They're still swingy. You know, some are great, some are medium, so they're always risky. Now, when it comes to buying inducements for a tournament or from an expansion league like 7th Super League, you get 600k, you can buy inducements and roster them. For League, you may not always be able to swing a desperate measure, but I know, like Trips has said, actually, once you've bought your 4 positionals, you might end up with a bit of cash. And this is something that was a bit rubbish in the old 7s, is that there was nothing fun to buy. You could be left with like 90k and you're like, I can't buy anything except more linemen, and that's it. Well, now actually, if you find a way to fudge your roster to around, to drop down to 50k under or 100k under, you can take a desperate measure, and it can absolutely, it won't overpower the game, but it will add an element to it, and it will add a fun element to your roster to make it something special, which I think is just absolutely extra value.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then the big thing that we haven't touched on with the roster build so far, and this is the bit that really turns 7s from being fast to being uber fast, is a reroll in 7s costs double the base amount of your reroll. So you've only got 600k, your rerolls are double. Rerolls are pretty much the thing you do not roster in 7s. There's 1 or 2 builds where you'll get them in there, but you will not see rerolls at all. You'll see the leader skill used to get the reroll in there, but 7s rosters, build it without the reroll, live without it, live by the dice.
Those teams that can take positionals and a reroll do have a nice little benefit there, but you give up a bench, you give up the choice of having a spare player, you give up that chance to have a desperate measure to have 1 reroll for the half. It is a really fun balancing point. And 7s has always been fun to build those rosters because 0 to 4 positionals, so it means that one team that you always see the same build of at an event, there's every team has got 1, maybe 2 alternate rosters that are the roster, right? Well, in 7s, as you'll know if you've watched any of our 7s videos, there's a ton. Like, every team's got 4, 5 brilliant fun versions of a roster that you can take, and it's going to give your team a massively different feel. So we've got 30 teams in Bloodborne. If each of them has got an average of 4 rosters, we've gone from 30 teams to 120 teams, because you're running which build are you running? So you mentioned nobility. Well, there's the ogre nobility, ogre mix, like ogre, 2 blitzers and a thrower. There's full combat, which is actually no throwers, no ogre, but both the blitzers and 2 bodyguards to get you 2 wrestle pieces and 2 that, and you can take a desperate measure because it's cheaper than the ogre. There's just so many different things you can do. And Milton, when you were building the undead one, I know we kind of discussed the undead roster, and you ended up going with the what was the roster you went with undead in the end?
2 whites, 2 ghouls.
Yeah.
So 2 skeletons and a zombie.
And that's the cool thing, is that it gives you a different vibe to 11s, because in 11s with an undead team, you would probably never give up taking those mummies because you want them on the line of scrimmage to pow things down. But in 7s, you got a choice. I can have my strength 5 mighty blow pieces, but if I do that, I give up the chance to have my agility pieces. And it you've got a 2 mummy, 2 white build versus a 2 white, 2 ghoul build, and they're going to play very differently.
Very, yeah. Definitely a tough choice as well, because you think about 7s and speed, as we know, can be very advantageous in 7s, but I've definitely suffered from not having the strength. It's a really interesting mix. Mix.
7s is brilliant. Linemen do great, blitzers do great, Skaven do great, big guys do great. Everybody has a moment in 7s, and I think that's probably why it's such a good format. Any other rules or costing roster changes there, Trips, or do we give it to Milton to talk about League?
I think that's the main things. And I suppose the other thing is when you're doing it, you do not think of an 11s roster for a 7s. Think of a 7s roster for 7s, because you're always going to be disappointed that way.
I think that's fair. Now, we will talk about it later, but it's a great way to get a taste of a team. 7s games, I guess one thing I didn't mention is they take probably about 45 minutes. Your first game may take slightly longer. Some games are definitely going to take slightly less. So I think this, again, it's kind of like a match of Magic the Gathering or a game of 7s. You're looking at 45 minutes, which makes it easy for an evening. A nice quick pickup time. If you want to try a team out or a couple of different teams out one evening, you can play a game with Norse, you can play a game with Amazons, you can play a game with Vampires, and see which one you like. That's one evening. Actually, that's a really cool place to start. But they've changed up a few bits and actually have introduced a 7s League variant as well. And Milton has been able to experience a bit of that on the island.
Yeah, no. So, we've been having our local 7s League, which has been run by Rob. So far, it's been really good fun. There are some rules, that have changed that are really quite interesting. In fact, the one I'm going to start with is the injury table. All right. So there's a difference with the injury table in playing 7s, and this is obviously going to come into play in exhibition format, but it's going to be slightly different. So in 7s, you roll 2d6. That's it. There's no further roll if they're badly hurt to find out, if they're casualty, to find out what happens. It's just 2 to 7 is stunned, 8 to 9 is KO'd, 10 is badly hurt, 11 is seriously hurt, and 12 is dead. That's it. So when you got your broken armor, your guys can die on that 12 and they're out of there. Once they're dead, you're really feeling it, trust me. That's a big change to keep in mind when you're playing 7s. There's a stunty one which is slightly different. I think that just moves the seriously hurt and dead. It moves the badly hurt to 9 to 10.
Yeah, that is only in effect for the league thing, because if you're playing a tournament or a resurrection escalation league like 7 Super Series, the long-standing injuries don't matter, and the die rolls are still the same as the regular game. You're just skipping that D16 debacle that happens afterwards. And Milton, it's got to be brutal when someone double sixes you after breaking your armor, or even with a foul.
Oh yeah, so I lost one of my whites to a snotling for that exact reason. He just rolled a 12 and that was it. My white didn't a failed regen as well.
Insult to injury on that one.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I mean, there's a few other changes. The Prez and Nuffle table's changed a little bit, which you will likely encounter. It comes up more often than I always anticipate it coming up. But I think the biggest change is the way that the player advancement happens. In terms of league play. So for player advancement in the 7 leagues, you have 2 choices at the end of a game. So rather than having SPP for you, scoring or whatever, none of that. Not worried about that. There are 2 ways to determine how a player gets a skill. So at the end of the game, you pick, one player on your team will get a skill, and there's 2 ways of it happening. So during the step 3 of the post-game sequence, a single player of your choice that played during this game and did not suffer an injury table result of 12 dead gains a randomly selected primary skill. Or during step 3, a single randomly selected player that played during this game and did not suffer death gains a randomly selected secondary skill. So basically, you get to choose a random player gets a chosen skill, or a chosen player gets a random skill. And actually, I love this. And the reason I love this is it means that you don't get to pick. You don't get in. I mean, so you can kind of pick, but what you only get one player to do that with, and it can be any of the players. And if you go for the player of your choice, obviously you're thinking, okay, well, player of my choice, I'm probably going to choose one of my positionals. Skill's going to be random. So even then, you're not guaranteed to get what you want. And I've had some bizarre skills, which I've utilized really well. So I've had Strip Ball on a Ghoul. I've had Stand Firm on a Wipe. I've got Fend on a Ghoul now. And I've had Sure Hands. Actually, I think those are pretty lucky. Those are pretty good skills to have had. The Stand Firm I wasn't so sure about, but once I kind of had it and I was like, okay, how can I utilize this? And then I was thinking, right, okay, I can put him here. And I think it's a great way of kind of teaching rules you might not necessarily use, because we tend to have habits, don't we? We like pick a team we like, we learn those rules, we learn what to go with, and we don't necessarily branch out into others. And so, yeah, love this.
All right. Just because I run every team like Skaven.
yeah. Definitely aimed at you.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I'm guilty of it too. But yeah, no, really cool. So, and also you it kind of evens the playing field as well. So you've got none of that like SPP.
Yeah, the SPP hog situation.
Yeah. Where somebody scored 8 touchdowns and completely destroyed your team, and he's now got 4 star players. You both, at the end of the match, no matter what the outcome, you're both getting a skill up, and you can kind of in some way orchestrate how that's going to play out. Which means that your next match, maybe you've lost a player or something's happened, but you're kind of on an even peg in the sense that you both made that decision. And actually, I think the inducements, while there's a more limited pool in sevens, somehow bridged the gap better. I don't know if that makes sense.
Is it because you can't take star players and therefore you kind of have to take other stuff?
Well, yeah, potentially that could be the reason. I've not actually kind of like given much thought to this before, but I mean, in the couple of games I played, like one of the games I played was just against Necromantic. He had significantly more players than me, and so I got quite a lot in inducement. And I think I had like 100K is quite a lot in 7, and I think I took 2. I took 2 of the what are they called?
Desperate Measures.
Desperate Measures, yeah. And I got the stab one and the foul one.
Oh.
And of course, it changes the way, like, even that, just having stab on one player, it doesn't matter who the player is, you've suddenly got another skill on the field.
Yeah.
And having another skill on the field with such limited skill set definitely evens the playing field more.
Imagine if that was +1 strength on a dodge blitzer.
Oh.
Yeah, it's massive. No, I do like that. I like that a lot, and I'm glad to hear that the inducements in League help keep it more competitive, which is good. And I really do like the non-SPP route. Now, I love SPP in League, but teams advance at different rates. Like Milton says, there are some players and there are some teams that are explosive, and then they kind of peter out, and there's those teams that take a year to brew up. You know, Nurgle, Chaos are a bit of slow brew, Black Orcs are a bit slow brew. Actually, when you've only got 7 players, if your opponent's got 4 or 5 players with skills and you've got 1 or 2, you are going to get outplayed, and it's going to be a little less fun. And sevens is about fast carnage. Like, well, I love that.
So here's the next bit where this kind of comes even more into play. Yeah. So at the end during step 1, so this is before you've selected your skills. So this is only applying to the guys that have skills already. So when you finish the game, during step 1 of the post-game sequence, anyone that's not dead that has a skill, you have to roll for. You roll 1d6, and if your roll is higher than the number of additional skills they have, so if they've only got 1 skill, you're looking for a 2+, they're fine. They've stayed with your team. if you roll less than or equal to,
they get promoted. They get hired.
Well, yeah,
right?
they get promoted. But actually, do you know what? I'm just reading that now. I'm wondering. That's right. If the role is, oh yeah, sorry, it is equal to or lower than. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, they get promoted and you lose them. And so, of course, you're thinking, well, you know, am I going to give another skill? Because if I give another skill, that might be great for the next game. But then I've now got a guy that's maybe worth like 20,000 more, or if I know, it'd be 30,000 more than his original cost, and he might just walk off. And I've had that happen. And I can tell you that's probably the most gut-wrenching thing to happen in Sevens. Sevens is unforgiving for that reason, but is absolutely fantastic for that reason as well. So you've got this other element in it where you're thinking, well, I don't really want to skill my guys up too much because they might just leave.
They might get promoted. They might get, you know, hired by a professional team, which is a really cool way to play Sevens in to the theme of Blood Bowl and professional sports. Like I think that's excellent. Now, whether it is a fair and sustainable thing, we're going to talk about in the next segment around about the best ways to play Sevens. But I mean, Milton, that hits the theme and the vibe just bang on, right?
Oh, 100%. So, like, I mean, you know, your whole idea of Sevens, your whole theme of Sevens is that these are your guys, your rookies. They're learning the ropes. They're trying their best to get picked up by the bigger teams. You know, they're trying to show themselves that they can play the game, and they're not supposed to be these amazingly skilled, extra talented players. They're supposed to be, you know, your kind of underdogs, and it's brilliant.
Absolutely. Okay, so that is the core of what is Blood Bowl Sevens. Smaller teams, smaller pitch, shorter game, the same, if not more, of that pure Blood Bowl vibe. This is a shot of espresso for Blood Bowl. It doesn't have a lot of the bloat that 11s has, and some of that is good, some of it is bad. 11s is its own thing. It kind of is. I would probably liken it to a one-shot D&D adventure rather than a long-term campaign, right? You can just brew up a thing, and if you want to run a league, you can, but there's less time investment, but there's more variability. So it is a narrative event when it comes to the league. But the great thing about Sevens is that it is a tighter rule set. The pitch, the choices, and the rosters are actually way more packed when it comes to your ability to win. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break, guys. I'm going to go grab another cup of tea because it's been like an hour without one, and I'm starting to falter. And then we're going to talk through the best ways to play Sevens because we got a few different ones for you. And we're back. So we've rightly sold you on Sevens. By now you would have seen a ton of it on the channel, whether it's 7 Super Series 3, which is live tomorrow or today if you're a patron, and then we did our 7 stream, and there's historic 7s as well. But within Sevens there is one thing that stays the same, and that is basically it is a quick way to play Blood Bowl. And within that, you've got restricted team lists, restricted gold amount, and it kind of has that tight vibe to it where you do not remotely get everything that you want to get. But it is Blood Bowl, and in Blood Bowl there are tons of different angles that make the game so good. 1 is the hobby aspect, 2 is the story aspect, your RPG elements, and 3 is the match play competitive, the choices you make on the game, on the pitch. And when it comes to Sevens, I think the ways to play are even more exacerbated because your player pool is smaller. And I think that's what Milton was just kind of alluding to when it comes to League. You know, some players get good quick and then they go away, and you get that kind of this player builds up to be a star really quickly and they don't. And I think, you know, we can all probably agree that most players that start with a good skill set or start with a skill or have a skill, one skill makes them massively stand out in 7s. Whereas 11s, if you've got one guy with dodge, you're kind of like, I got a guy with dodge. In 7s, you're like, this is my guy. This is my guy. He's the guy who's going to get strength 4 on the Desperate Measure and Ruffle Stomp, Blood Tithe Ben. a little bit. So, I mean, we've been talking about League, so it makes sense to start out with the League. In old 7s, there was no League rules. There were no League rules. Now, in this edition, you've got the same TV, you've got incremental but random as heck skills, and then you've still got permadeath, and you've got the chance of your players being bought away from your team. So this is a high narrative, I would say, roguelike way to play Blood Bowl 7s. I mean, Milton, you've been experiencing it. You know, what's the pros and cons of the Death Zone 7's League rules?
Well, I think there's still some confusion around some of the rules in there. I won't be able to list them off the top of my head. I know we've come across a few in there which need FAQing, but generally speaking, it's a great little rule set. I'm really happy that Games Workshop have
certified it.
Yeah, and it's not as if they've even just done it as like a footnote. There's a fair chunk of info in here with a whole bunch of new like charts and ways of playing the game.
And the pitch.
So, yeah, they've included the pitch. I feel like they could have gone a little bit further with it, as in maybe not in terms of the rules or anything like that, but maybe like fleshed it out, because what you do have to do is flip back and forth between what's changed in the 7's rules and what's like actually in the main rule book, and that can be a bit confusing because you're a bit like, oh well, hang on a minute, is this different or is this the same? I think you kind of mentioned that with the kickoff, so that change from the old sort of rule set that we were playing through to the new, because there's no mention of it in the new. The cons, it's hard to say really. I feel like I said earlier, it can be pretty unforgiving.
That would be the thing I would pick out.
Game 1 can be really, really bad, and therefore Game 2 and 3 can be like, oh, I really don't want to take my 2 players to...
And this is it. And when you're playing 11s, not only do you have another chart to roll on when it comes to permanent injury. So double 6s doesn't just mean I lose my guy. And that immediate skill up doesn't just mean I might randomly lose my guy and then be stuck with Journeyman. So 11s weathers that. 11s is slower to brew up, but even though it can feel catastrophic at times, it's slower to drop. Remember, you're only playing with 7 players. So I think the 7's League rules, they're great in the way that you get those random skills every game. Your team is always developing, and that's absolutely what you want. The downside of the Death Zone 7 rules, and we're going to come to an alternative in a moment, is that you guys can just die in one game. Like Trip said, game 1 can just be, and you rolled 2 6s, so now my Rat Ogre is dead, and I now have to wait 4 games to buy another one. The great thing about 7s, right? That's only, 4 hours of gameplay, because you can binge those games like nothing else. But the fact is, I like the balancing factor of the amount of skills you put on a guy increases the chance that you lose them. I think that alone could be punishing, because we've seen it in Blood Bowl leagues before. Like, that guy's got 4 skills on him and he keeps rolling a 5, and I just got kick on my guy, and after one game he's been bought. And it's that kind of randomness that I think was a big vulnerability of the last edition of Blood Bowl, specifically when it came to randomly getting +1 strength to a dude and randomly gaining no money after a game. That just left that imbalance. So I think that the league rules for 7s do a great job of introducing players to the emotional rigmarole that is a Blood Bowl league. I don't know if you guys would agree that.
Yeah, I think so. And actually, do you know what? While you're sort of saying that, there's another element to this which I've kind of discovered. So I know we've played quite a lot of sort of like exhibition sevens.
Yep.
Effectively, I took what I feel is a sort of exhibition-y roster to a league, and this is something I'm still trying to sort of wrap my head around in my mind. So far we've seen the teams that took more than 7 players that took a bench do better than those that only took 7. Now, when you're talking about an exhibition format, you're talking about a tight-knit resurrection team, and you're not so focused on the bench, particularly at the low money. Now, when you take the bench into account, obviously, you're still limited to the 4 positionals, so your bench is going to be a lineman, but it can really impact how you build that roster. So it might be that, you can't afford that mummy or you choose not to take that mummy because the difference in cash is you taking a ghoul and spending it on a zombie, or in order to have that backup. And I've really struggled not having the extra pieces, because if one guy does go down, you don't have that backup piece to kind of come in. And if he is out, or he's out for the next game, you've got someone to fill in the blank. Obviously, you still take on journeyman like you would normally, but then you're also looking at, not having that on as a permanent piece. If you go for the random skills and you end up randomizing onto if you go for the random choice and you end up randomizing onto a lineman, you've got all these extra considerations to think about. And so, yeah, that can be challenging too. And I think still trying to learn and understand that element of it.
Now, we tend to talk about sevens as a really great way to learn Blood Bowl, like as a really good gateway, because the game takes, an hour tops if you're learning, and, like we said, 40 minutes if you know what you're doing. So it's a really great way to get the basics. There's only 4 positionals, so the majority of the players on the pitch are going to have the same rules. So it's going to be a lot slicker, a lot simpler, and you don't fall into that opening trap. As a player starting, the Sevens League rules, I feel like the Sevens League rules might be a little off-putting to first-time players. I don't know what you guys think about that.
I'd agree with that. I think Sevens as a learning format is the best format I think I've seen. I've played with a few new players on Sevens for the first time. It's quick. There's limited skills, limited players in it, and there's no line of slaughter. So you don't lose the kickoff roll and then go, great, I was really looking forward to playing with those 3 pieces, and they're all in the box. Or even if that happens in the first couple of turns in Sevens, you're like, well, it's okay. In an hour's time, I'll get to start it all over again.
Exactly. But
I think it's the nature that nature of Sevens is almost flipped into reverse when you get into the league then, because you have 1 or 2 impacts at the end of the game. An opponent gets a good skill up, or you lose a player. It's so much a higher percentage of your team value and of your player base that it can be quite a lot more swingy.
Yeah.
And I think you could literally have 4 positionals out after game 1 and you are playing lineman bowl in game 2.
So Sevens as a game, brilliant. As a league, from the death zone, it is high variance, high narrative. It's going to give you the highs and lows of Blood Bowl with not a lot of effort, which is awesome. You can just roll the normal SPP route when it comes to running a league and just do standard league routes. That's fine too. You can do that. I think, however, the most common way to play Blood Bowl Sevens is going to be in a tournament format, because it is limited players, limited time. It does brew in beautifully to an exhibition match or constructed Blood Bowl, where actually, because like Trips, you just said, 1 player out of Sevens is much bigger than 1 player out of 11s, mathematically, but also emotionally. And having those players unless I guess we should talk about constructed Blood Bowl, but we're talking about exhibition match where players resurrect at the end of each game and your team is reset to how it was at the beginning. You may have different skill packages, you may have incremental skill packages, there's lots of different things, but generally speaking, a tournament, you build a roster, you play a game, and the next game you play with the same roster with the same skills and the same guys. So if you trip up and fall down and you double six yourself and murder, actually it's fine. Like Trips just said, in 45 minutes when you rack up for the next game, it doesn't matter anymore. It's fine, don't worry about it. The downside of that league carryover is like, and now that's going to carry over to the next game, which is a big thing in 11s, and that's more risk management in 11s, and you've got more time, and it's more of a bury yourself in it. In my team, I think about my next game, think about the league standings. Well, tournament Blood Bowl is entirely about the situation on the pitch. It's entirely about your decisions and what you go with and the gameplay. And I think this is why I love it so much, is because you take that worry, that hangover, and you ignore it. Okay, this is great. You can go and smash a load of beers on the pitch and you're going to wake up just fine for your next round. Now, we've got a sevens event coming up, which is going to be 4 games of sevens in one day. And I think this is probably the best way to just play competitive Blood Bowl. There's no star players. The teams are smaller. The skill packages are smaller. It's a slicker, simpler game that rewards risk, but also consciousness of risk. And the sevens tournament structure, I thought we'd just have a quick look at, guys, because I mean, I know we've got this event coming up, but this is kind of what most sevens events look like. And you've got your team tiers, and tier 1 team is going to be 600k with 2 primary skills on a player, or on 2 players, right? 1 skill on 2 players. So I mean, Trips, you're a Norse madman. That's tier 1 Norse, 2 primary skills. What do you go with?
Well, you're probably looking. I mean, for me, with a frenzy team, I think a guard piece is all of a sudden massively swingy in sevens, because you're not going to get stacks of strength 5 players unless someone's taken a corn team or the Black Orcs. So I think a guard piece is really useful. And leader is a very, very handy skill to sneak into a sevens package, because that reroll will help you when you double skull in turn 1 with your best player.
Absolutely. And it also means that each tier, it juices up the tiers a bit. So tier 2 for our event, and I think quite a lot of events, would be 2 primary skills and 1 secondary that you can just choose to put on a player. So you build your roster, and this is where Milton was alluding to this. So this is what you were saying, Milton, about brewing up a league roster versus brewing up a tournament roster. Well, one big thing about brewing up tournament rosters is that you know what skills you're going to start with, so you can afford to not buy that reroll and put leader on a guy. Or Milton, you ran the 2 ghoul 2 white brew because it's a kind of a tournament build. Why would you go with that one in a tournament and versus in league?
Yeah, so I feel like the speed from the ghouls gives you more flexibility against different types of teams. So the mummies are quite static. We've seen this in the games we've played before. They don't have an awful lot of movement. Yes, they sit on the line, but the line isn't there.
Yeah.
And you've got that six thing. So trying to get them engaged is quite difficult. And also, would I want to give skills to the mummies? Probably not. Whereas I can kind of think about maybe, like changing those ghouls, or even the whites. The whites have access to that. That being said, I was saving for a mummy in my league game because the pace of the game has changed. The mentality around playing has changed, and I wanted to, if I could, get enough cash to buy one in and just see how that kind of played out, because I actually thought this would be quite a useful piece, even if I just had the one of them. So for the undead, the ghouls, I'd probably look at sort of centering around making them sort of my guys, as you sort of said earlier, and giving them those skills in order to carry the ball, probably sure hands, because I can never pick the ball up.
You know, one with sure hands, one with block. You know, job done. But it allows you to pick and choose, and what that does is it gives more player agency immediately. And I don't know if you guys have got a dark history with TCGs like Magic the Gathering and things, but actually there is so much to be said about coming up with a cool roster idea. Or a cool deck idea and be like, oh, I want to play this out, I'm going to use these skills. And then just being like, actually, no, that's not the best skill. One thing that can be quite tough in League, and one thing I do like about the randomness of the Sevens rules for League, is that you try out different skills. But when we played AOS as an expansion league and I bought a unit and I had to stick with that unit and the unit was garbage, it was just a rubbish experience. The great thing about Sevens, if you're playing in an exhibition format, you're only going to be playing it with a couple of games, and you can do some test games, and it takes 45 minutes to get a test game. So you run that roster, Milton, you take 2 mummies instead of, you know, that roster. You can immediately go, this is too slow for what I want and how I want to play it. But you get that flexibility then to be like, I want to play a good team, a tier 1 team, but I only get 2 skills. I can flex down and take a tier 2 team, and I get a little bit more agency to make it special, to make it my own. I can take 2 primaries and a secondary, so I can take a chaos team who out of the box are not as good as Undead or Skaven, but actually now I get a block Minotaur with my double, or I can use that double and put leader on somebody and I save 120k on my reroll costs. Or you go full mad lad, take tier 3, 2 primary skills and 2 secondary skills. Well, now that ogre team is looking pretty awesome, because you got leader on a punter, there's your reroll, you got block on an ogre, block on another ogre, and then 1 primary skill to chuck on a nobbler. Like, your team then builds up this like element of my choices. And I think I love Sevens tournament trips because it is your choices as opposed to the rolls that your opponent made in the last 2 games and the rolls that you made at the end of a game.
Absolutely. And I think, and that's the thing about Sevens, because of the way you play, it is much more about how you play rather than did you get lucky or not with the dice. Because in Sevens you are going to fail things. Half your turns are going to end with a turnover because you have failed something or another. And it almost it just lives that way. And it was really interesting at the Beachhead Sevens tournament. It was a really casual atmosphere. I think the other thing that Sevens does as well, and it goes back to your player base numbers as well, the amount of fouling is dramatically reduced because the risk to losing a player is so much higher. You will see fouling more as a thing because it needs to be done, as opposed to I've got 2 players left and I haven't got anything else to do with them, so I shall go and foul.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the cool thing about Blood Bowl. You know, you've got the depth and the narrative of League. You've got the, you know, with some randomness in there. You've got the, you know, rack 'em up, start again element of a constructed tournament rule set, which as a match play bench, I would say our rule set is probably a really great place to start. So if you want to play a one-off evening of Sevens or just play a pickup game, then just be like, oh yeah, we'll use the Bonehead tier list because actually it works really well and it gives you enough to make your team interesting. Because this is the dangerous thing about doing all the Sevens videos, is that every flipping team has got like a couple of rosters that I'm like, oh, that actually would be a lot of fun. And at tier 2, you know, I was looking at a Nurgle build, you know, and I'm like, actually 2 Pestigors, two you know, bloaters with a desperate measure, and actually at tier 2 that's 3 skills. That's quite a lot of fun. Actually, I could, as a challenge there's fun to be had, and there's 29 teams, so it's like you can try different things, and that's just a really cool thing to do as a one-off. But there is one more way to play that I wanted to bring up, and it is an expansion rule set, which is what we're doing for 7 Super Series, and it's what we've always done for 7 Super Series. And it is a halfway house between the Blood Bowl League and Blood Bowl Constructed. There's no SPP. There's also no casualties. But like the Blood Bowl League rules, one player gets a skill at the end of every game. In 7 Super Series, we have it so that you can choose who gets a skill, and you allow stacking, and also it can be a primary or secondary depending on the tier. So tier 1, game 1 and 2 is primary, game 3 is a double, game 4 and 5 is a primary, because we have it in that set, and you can stack them, and you know, tier 3 goes double, primary, secondary, primary, secondary. But what it does, and we've seen this across, you know, 7 Super Series 1, and now we're seeing it across 7 Super Series 3, it builds up star players, but it doesn't do it at a way where one team rampages ahead of another. So it's got that, my team's going to reset, so it doesn't matter if I make this risky, exciting play, which I think cannot be underestimated. Milton, when I took you back to the ferry yard that time, we were talking about, you know, the benefits of exhibition Blood Bowl, because you can go for stupid stuff you wouldn't normally do.
It's my favourite format, that's for sure. Don't get me wrong, I like the league, but I think I like theory crafting more than anything else. And with league, you don't have so much control over that. And I know, like Ian said earlier about the guys in the Discord talking about the upcoming tournament and how they've already made like 300 rosters.
Yeah.
And that's, for me, that's like half the fun of it. And so, yeah, like I feel like there's so much sort of fun flexibility for you to do that. And like you said, Sevens is such a great place to do that, because you can brew up a roster, you can play for 45 minutes, go, this is great, or this is not what I thought it was going to be, and move on.
And you can proxy in a team and try them and play them. And it's such a great way to go for doing it. And we've seen it before where you'll play with one side and you literally flip and you play with the other team. You're like, the team are better when I'm not coaching them. So what's the difference there? And what if I learn? And why are you playing my bash team as a dash team?
All right. But no, and I think that really does segue us off to some of the benefits and some of the most fun bits about Sevens. And Trips, you've led me on to something that we've not talked about, because there's hardly any rerolls, because things always go wrong. It really, 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 and this is something that Rich and I talked about when we first tested it for the podcast, it really teaches you activation prioritization. And playing Sevens will teach you about stacking your activations in the right order more than anything else will. And it will also teach you about positioning across the board, and about running lanes, and how sometimes there are running lanes that you don't see, but they are right flipping there with a single push. But mostly that in Sevens, because you probably don't have rerolls, you probably don't have very many skills, you have to make sure that you do the stuff you need to do first of all. And that, I think, is one of the best things about Sevens. It's quick, it's easy, it's fun, but it will teach you how to play better Blood Bowl, I think.
100% agree with that. I think positioning, if you want to learn how to position better, Sevens is the way to do it. And if you want to learn how 1 or 2 pushes can make a big difference on how the game works, play Sevens, because things will happen and you'll be like, there is a lane there that I had not seen, and there is a viable stretch play that is really only a 3+3+, or if you're BT, it's probably a 5+5+6+, and he still thinks
still work, yeah.
But it really is a great learning place for that. Sevens will teach you very quickly the wrong way to do things, and it will also teach you very quickly the benefit of thinking a move ahead.
Yeah, and adapting to disaster. And you guys are going to see that when you watch some of 7 Super Series, how quickly a game can turn around with a couple of failed bits and bobs. It's phenomenal, and it's really exciting. So that is probably the last bit I wanted to touch on when it comes to sevens, guys. I know we were going to talk about what teams are good and what teams are bad, but actually I think it might be more fun to let people experiment and find their own one, because I've found that most teams, in 11s, most teams can beat other teams, but there's more players, there's more dice, there's more time, so it tends to even out a bit more. In sevens, that's all quite quick, so any team can beat any team, I think, a little bit easier. What I will do though is ask you both what your favorite team to play in is sevens.
Ooh, that's fair.
Because the dangerous thing about sevens is it doesn't take long to get a game in. So like Trip said, you can swap sides. You can, do you want to play another game, or do you want to swap sides? Like, it'd be great to run the different team and try it out.
I'll tell you what, I haven't actually played them, so I can't say that they're my favorite team to play, but the one that I've theory crafted a lot is Chaos Chosen, and I really want to get them on the pitch and play sevens with them. I think they have an enormous amount of flexibility in terms of, like, if you're taking a tournament package, in terms of like the skills you can get, the horns on the beastmen, which are your linemen. I think that's such a great skill to have in sevens. They've got reasonably decent movement, and so yeah, I think that's the one I want to try the most. I don't know what my favorite that I've played so far is.
We had Chaos Chosen in the first 7 Super Series. It was the 2 warrior and a minotaur build, and it was tremendous fun. It's probably not the most consistent build, but it was excellent fun. And because it was incremental skill build, after a few games, like, the minotaur was just this absolute standout star player to be feared, and it was just so dramatic. I love the red skulls, and conversely, I am now very much enjoying the golden skulls. But Trips, what would be your pick?
So I think my pick in old sevens was Dark Elves, because I think you could actually play a team of lineman Dark Elves in sevens, and they were pretty awesome because they could run, bash, and pass. I think the passing changes has changed that a bit, and that definitely nerfed them a little bit in that. I played with Khorne at the weekend, and I think a team of all frenzy in sevens is both a living on the edge way of going, but also potentially really good fun. I think it'll make you think. The frenzy, you're always got to be thinking about where things going. When your whole team's got frenzy, you know it's going to go to pot about 4 blocks in. But I really think they've got potential, and I think a Khorne team with just a little bit of skills aren't going to be fun to play against.
I love Khorne in sevens. The Seekers are they're just all right. It's going to go wrong as often as it's going to go right, but each one of them feels really powerful. Now, this will surprise none of you, but in sevens, my favorite team is any team with either a rat ogre or a minotaur, because you're just trundling around throwing 4 to 6 die blocks, and it just feels really strong. It just feels really potent, and it doesn't take a lot for a player to, like, in Blood Bowl 11s, that big guy is a barrier. I need to play around him. In sevens, that big guy is unique and special and terrifying, and I really love that. There's just this more like narrative gravitas I get about every single positional. So the Roger, I don't know, I love every team when it comes to sevens, but any team with a Roger is terrifying, and I think I cannot wait to get. I'm going to find an excuse to run some Pact in sevens, because that would just be some of the builds are horrific. Like, it's going to go wrong a lot, but when it goes right, it's going to be absolute filth. But I just love it. I think it's so good. Absolutely superb. So that is everything about sevens. There is one more thing I wanted to discuss before we wrap up for the show, though. And if you are out there and you didn't join us for our test live stream, because obviously we're going to be doing our best to live stream South Coast Autumn, and we had a really successful test stream where we filmed and live broadcast 3 sevens games, trips. Ben and Rick joined to just farm out some sevens games, and we wanted everybody to watch and give us some feedback to try and make it better. And I just wanted to take a couple of minutes with the guys to just talk about how it went, because I haven't had that much fun doing Blood Bowl stuff for a really long time, and that's saying something. It was great fun. I'm happy
to start. I mean, it was great. Sevens is always fun to play, and I think sevens being commentated on and watching the shots afterwards, it was so much fun. And I think I played 2 games and co-commentated on one, and I think the interaction co-commentating was really enjoyable. And I'm sure, Ben, you will be living on your Tony Romo moment for the foreseeable future and going, I think this is where Ben's going to go now. And he literally moved his mini along the drawn line on the screen.
That was a highlight. I'm not going to lie. That felt very cool.
Yeah, but it looked good, and it was great. And it's a good game to do that with, that it's fast moving, that it works well. And it was one of the few times where I've done something where we've been filming it where I actually really just wanted to be watching it. I really want to watch rather than play.
It was such a cool moment. I've got the picture of the stadium up in the background because that just happened on stream as well. I loved it. The gameplay was so exciting. Some of the stuff that was pulled out by the coaches was just ridiculous. Getting to talk to everyone in chat, as well as like just talking about the plays, it was just so much fun, and I'm so excited to do that at tournaments. But the purpose of bringing this up was, if you want to see what sevens can be, we got 3 games. And they're all brilliant. The first
all 3 games have got a true sevens moment in them, and it's not often that you're standing up and cheering for what your opponent has just done to you.
Yeah, that's how it goes. I mean, Milton, we didn't get a chance to sneak you over into the country for that one, but I think you had a chance to catch some of the replay for it.
I was in the country, but I was insanely jealous of not being there. It looked like a hell of a fun game. Yeah, no, I've watched the replay through, and it was just fantastic. I think, and some of like the comments and the feedback from the community have been absolutely amazing. It is obviously it's been an interesting trial, and it's worked out wonderfully. The commentary was really good. Like, it was just great just listening to that kind of playthrough. I think there's a lot of comments around how the double commentary worked really well.
That was really good.
All I can think in my head is Bob and Jim.
Bob and Jim. Now we got some great feedback, which was awesome. We also got some really great constructive feedback. So if you haven't had a chance to let us know by commenting on any of the videos, or just come and tell us in the Discord. I think we've hit some of the biggest things on the head already. One of them being the overhead camera was a different vibe than the side camera, so we spent some money and got another side camera that's now going to be our overhead camera as well. So hopefully the color should match, and the video quality should be much better from the top down shot as well as the side on shot. The second bit that was flagged up was that the dice tray was too big, so therefore wasn't zoomed in enough. So literally the day of the tournament I printed a smaller dice tray, so that's outside, so that's like, it's a 6x4 one now, which is basically half the size, so we'll be able to zoom in closer on that. We've got some telestration going on behind us. What was the other? The players not being
the players themselves. We did such a good job of basing all the teams with grass that they looked great from the side-on shots, as you can see there, but there was a little bit of, particularly from the overhead shot, struggling to work the teams out in detail. So Ben's wonderfully over and under engineered a solution where we'll be looking at effectively like a skill ring for each team, which will enable us to use the skill rings still and nameplates, but each team will effectively have a color. So you'll be able to see pretty easily where the players are and what's going on, and hopefully that's going to work really well.
Yeah, the red versus blue team. They're basically clip-ons that go around skill rings or bases. Because the great thing is, and this is it, like, this is going to be for tournaments. I think now we might end up doing more live stream games because it was a lot of fun when we can, obviously. But it's for tournaments, and people who come to tournaments, we got like 2 different days, so we must have about 70 different coaches coming to SCA alone, and with another 40 plus coming to Bonehead Bowl. That's a whole bunch of different ways to base and paint your models. So even though there's a high likelihood you'll be able to tell what team is what, actually, regardless of how people have based them, we should be able to at least colorize one of the teams to make it easier for commentary or you guys just jumping into a game to kind of see. I had a wonderful time. I love playing with tech. I've really enjoyed playing with cameras, and I think it was some of the most fun Blood Bowl we've played in a long time, except probably for some of the carnage that is going to come out in the 7 Super Series show. So actually, if you like watching Blood Bowl, this is a pretty good period of time, I reckon.
And it is that nice length of game to watch. I mean, it's a quick game to play, but yeah, it's you set aside 45 minutes, watch a game of Blood Bowl 7s, spot which rule we got wrong or missed or detail. It's just part of the game. But yeah, do give us some feedback on how it went, anything that could be better going forward.
Yeah.
We're considering where we were 10 days ago and all the work you put into it, Ben. Amazing job, and we just thank everyone who joined us on the day, because
it was brilliant.
It does make a big difference when you've got a real active chat and talking about it. And we had a couple of guys at club last night
that was great,
like saying, "Oh, watch the stream," and I had to go out and I came back and watched it again, and it was great. It's like that's what it's all about, really.
It'll be good to probably do a bit of a test with an 11s game or something like that. But I mean, it's the same thing. It's just 11s is a bit slower, I guess, a bit of a slower pace. And it was awesome. But yeah, I mean, just wanted to sort of flag out, we've been doing these trials, and I'm really chuffed with how it went, and it was a really great time. And over the last month, we've got so much 7s, like got to play a bunch of games of Milton, we got to view these games. It's just so much fun at the moment. And Amazons haven't even landed yet. So Blood Bowl, I think, is our golden period. Anyway, guys, thank you ever so much for joining me to talk through Blood Bowl nonsense tonight. Appreciate hanging out and chatting with you as always. But we should probably wrap up now so that Trips can go and put up another print on. Because at some point I think I'd love to get a Necromunda game or something on the channel as well, because that sounds like a lot of fun. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for joining us, and everybody out there, thank you very much for joining us and hanging out with us and talking Blood Bowl. We're going to disappear. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy blocking.